What is up, fight fans? It's DJC here going live again for the first time in, I believe, what was a week? Yes, it's been a week since I've been live, or maybe a little longer. Haven't really kept track, but figured I might come on this stream and talk to y'all. There's quite a bit to talk about in the world of MMA. Ronda Rousey's teasing a return. As we know, the main event of UFC Rio got canceled, and Charles is still without an opponent. Benoit Saint-Denis didn't take the fight, which is surprising, even though he literally said he was willing to step in if someone got hurt, and then he backtracked, or his team did, which is it's dumb. They should have taken the fight. Gamrot wants to fight Charles, but Charles doesn't want to fight. Now Diego's talking about fighting Charles, and Charles is still yet to respond. So it's kind of concerning that UFC Rio is like barely a couple weeks out, and we still don't have a main event. What's up, Toron? I think the Diego fight, it's a good fight, but I don't want to see that fight. I think it should be Gamrot. And I don't know who else will fight Charles, because I don't think Armin would take it, and Charles would turn it down 100%, because he turned down Gamrot, because Gamrot's a wrestler, and he was preparing for a striker. And Armin already beat him. It's too risky. Like, why would he on short notice fight a guy who already beat him? And then also, Armin probably wouldn't take it, because what does he have to gain other than just getting another fight in there? He's fighting a guy he already beat with barely a training camp. Like, yeah, there's other options for Sarukian, so it doesn't make sense. Patty won't take it because he's always fat out of camp, won't make the weight on time unless they could do a catch weight. And Gaethje, of course, he's so picky with who he fights, when he fights, so he definitely wouldn't take that fight. And he's never shown interest in rematching Oliveira, so yeah, it should be Gamrot, but Oliveira doesn't want it. It should have been BSD. So I guess what we're really going to end up seeing is Oliveira versus Lopez, but then if Lopez wins, what does he do? Does he just if he wins, he's just going to be double ranked. And then what does he do? Be a contender at lightweight or featherweight? It's going to kind of put his career in a very awkward position. To be fair, Lopez Oliveira is a better fight than Gamrot versus Oliveira. Yeah, I guess so. It has, like, more potential to be a banger, whereas Gamrot can make it very boring. But yeah, Oliveira might as well just take the fight. Like, if he wants to fight in Rio, he can't be turning guys down, but yet complaining in the same breath how people say they want to fight him, but then aren't really about it. Like, says the one who literally said no to fighting Gamrot. And I think Oliveira would beat him anyway. I think Charles would submit him. So I don't see the problem. I mean, I guess he doesn't want to risk being that jiu-jitsu guy who spends time on his back, but I don't think Gamrot beats Oliveira. I think Matthias Gamrot is extremely overrated. It's like he has that fight where he gets exposed and shown off to be not that good. Beneil Dariush, Dan Hooker, and then he comes back and wins and people start glazing him again. It's so annoying. What I feel Lopez does if he beats Oliveira, he fights Holloway for the BMF belt. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea, actually. You might actually be cooking there, Toron. And then Holloway gets a second defense of his BMF title. But I mean, regardless of the outcome, it's going to be like an entertaining fight. That would suck though, because I mean, it wouldn't suck, but it would suck for Charles, and it would suck for the fans who were wanting that long-awaited rematch between Blessed and New Bronx. Because when they last fought 10 years ago, I mean, it was barely even a fight. Like, Oliveira immediately injures his esophagus or something like that early on. The fight didn't even get started, and they were both so young. So I would actually like to see both guys in their primes fully improved in an actual fight with actual exchanges, you know? Like the story between them is not complete, and if Oliveira is to lose his next fight, he's not completing that chapter with Holloway. Now, in other news, I did a video on this earlier, but Ronda Rousey is talking about fighting again. You guys actually think she's gonna come back? And if she does, I don't know. I kind of feel like it's a bad idea. Like, why wait 10 years to fight again? And I know anything is possible, but 10 years? Her last fight was when she was 28 when she last fought. Or no, 29, I believe. Because that was 2016. And then 2026, she'll be 39. 10 years out of the game. And she spent 10 years in either, doing pro wrestling or getting knocked out, or no, not knocked out. I mean, she did get knocked out by by Nunes and Holly, but I mean, getting knocked up by Travis Brown, having babies. I don't know how many kids she's had by now, but that's got to have taken a toll on her body. And now she started training 6 months ago and is loving training and is tricking herself into thinking she's still got it. It's just crazy to me. And last I recall, I think it was like last year, Ronda was saying, "Oh, I couldn't compete again. My body wouldn't be capable of it since pregnancy." But now all of a sudden, all is good. It's kind of weird to me. She's gonna be 39, almost 40. For some reason, I feel Dubronx will do better. Will be better on the feet against Diego. I mean, it's not a crazy take or a crazy thing to think because Lopez isn't like this great striker. He's powerful, but he's like a marauder. He's not technical. He throws the same combos every time. He always throws looping hooks, left hook, right hook, uppercut, and an occasional jab cross with some kicks. His fight against John Silva was the one time he actually did something different other than spamming hooks, where he caught, John Silva off guard with that spinning back elbow. But Oliveira is like the better striker than Diego. I think on the ground is where it kind of gets interesting, but then you could even argue Oliveira has a better ground game than Lopez too. But I really feel like that fight's just going to come down to where is Oliveira at, after getting knocked out by Ilia Topuria, because he's coming back very soon. And for some reason, now people are seeing the concern in this. But when he was supposed to fight Fiziev, no one seemed concerned at all. Like, he's going to beat Fiziev. Like, Fiziev could have won that fight. And Diego could win this fight because Diego's another heavy hitter. And Oliveira is not giving his chin a chance to rest. He's not giving his brain a chance to rest. How do you see Lopez doing against Dubrox? Or how do you see the fight going? Um, I want to say Charles is the favorite or should win. But it's just hard to say. Like Oliveira's getting up there in age. That knockout could have changed him. And Lopez looked really good in his last fight against John Silva. He looked improved, not really technical, but just more patient, more composed. And when you got a fighter with that kind of power, but fights with that level of tacticalness and patience, that can be dangerous. It's kind of like how when Gaethje became patient or Francis became patient, and when they became patient, they became more dangerous. So I'm kind of on the fence, but I could see Lopez kind of being a bad matchup because even though he's not as technical on the feet, he has the power advantage, the durability advantage. He's more scrappy than Oliveira. Oliveira has always been chinny. Chandler caught him late, and Diego Lopez can match the ground fighting of Oliveira. Well, I'm not surprised that he hasn't thrown his name in the hat because he turned down Oliveira for Rio because he wasn't medically cleared until November. Lopez has a chin too, took several shots from Silva. I know, like shots that would have likely finished anyone else. Like I wasn't surprised actually. Because I know Diego's tough, but my prediction for that fight was I thought Jean Silva was going to stop him, but I thought it was going to be like a dragged out fight where Silva's going to have to break him down, constantly chip away at him until the granite cracks. And I really thought we were headed towards that direction until Diego landed that spinning back elbow. And it's so crazy to me how that spin elbow seems to be what's really trending in 2025. Like everyone's getting spinning back elbow KOs. Carlos Prates, Lerone Murphy, Diego Lopez. And it kind of makes me wonder if we saw John Jones fight this year, I wonder if we would have seen a spin elbow KO from him. Oh yeah, Oliveira's like 5'10, Diego's like 5'11. Yeah, you're actually right. And I think Oliveira has like a 74-inch reach, so maybe like, and Diego has like 72, so maybe Oliveira's slightly longer. Yeah, Oliveira will have a reach advantage. So that might kind of balance the scales a little bit. But either way, man, I hope Oliveira can find an opponent and that they can work something out, man. Because if Oliveira doesn't fight, that would, I mean, it's for his own health, but at the same time, it would suck to see him not get a chance to headline in Rio in front of a full crowd this time. Because 5 years ago, it wasn't in front of an audience because of COVID. But yeah, man. I don't know who else would headline the card. I mean, the co-main is Davison Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson. That's not main event worthy. Vincente Luque is fighting Joel Alvarez. That could maybe main event, but I would like to see a bigger fight with higher stakes uh be the headline. If Ronda is really coming back, who do you guys think she'll even end up fighting? My guess is they'll probably make Rousey versus Pena. And also, I'm kind of weirded out by the fact that the White House isn't on the 4th of July because literally July 4th is a Saturday in 2026, is it not? That would be the perfect time, like Independence Day in America. Why the hell did they move it to June? But regardless, I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea, I guess, to have Pena and Ronda fight on that card. But Ronda also said she wouldn't fight in the White House. But Pena Ronda does make sense because they have a bit of a rivalry. There's some animosity. Pena's been saying she's wanted that fight. She called Ronda out in 2022, and now 4 years later, it could actually be a reality. Now, is that like a winnable fight for Ronda? On paper, you could say yes because Juliana is very submission prone, vulnerable, and Ronda Rousey has a good submission game. She's got the armbar. But she's such a one-trick pony, and Juliana Pena is the better wrestler. Her takedown defense improved as shown against Kayla, even though Kayla did eventually do what Kayla does and did get her takedowns and did sub her. Kayla had to work for those takedowns, and I think she could at least hold off Ronda's takedowns if she tries. And if it's a scrap on the feet, I think Pena wins that. Pena went blow for blow with Nunes, whereas Rousey folded. So I think Pena could honestly fold Rousey and get a standing TKO. I think the most marketable comeback fight is Juliana. I think the most winnable comeback fight is Misha Tate because Misha is around the same age as Rousey. Losing fights she shouldn't be losing, which is a strong indicator she's past her prime. And that's someone that Ronda beat twice. So that's like a good matchup stylistically, and someone that she could like gain her confidence against. But 10 years, that's too long. I don't like that. If she was gonna come back, I know she had her reasons for stepping away, but if she was gonna come back, it should not have taken this long. Like Ronda is mentally weak. She's fragile. She can't handle losing. When she lost twice, she quit the sport. Not only did she quit, she stopped watching MMA. She stopped watching fights. Like the last time she actually truly kind of chimed in to the world of MMA was UFC 277 when she actually did an interview with DC, kind of showed a bit of interest in Nunes Pena too, but I don't even think she watched the fight. She didn't even watch the first Nunes Pena fight, but she heard of it. But now all of a sudden she's in love with MMA. It's just kind of weird. And I just know that if or when she loses, she's going to quit again and she's going to mentally spiral again. So I'm not a fan of this from Ronda. If she was going to come back, it should have been 6 years ago. It should have been in 2019 because 2.5, 3 years is not bad for a layoff. 10 years is too long and unacceptable. Will they actually do a card at the White House? I think so. I know a lot of people don't believe it, but Trump wants it. Dana's committed to making it happen. That's what's driving a lot of fighters to want to actually be active. Like Conor McGregor, the UFC had no sense of direction as to when Conor was coming back. Conor didn't even know when he was coming back. Then all of a sudden, the White House was incentive for Conor to actually want to train and say, this is when I want to come back, right? And now Michael Chandler might actually be in luck. And that's also part of the title. McGregor Chandler still possible. And if that's the case, Dana will definitely try to make that card. He doesn't want to put John Jones in the White House, but he already has like a graphic for what the card would look like. So I do see it happening. They're talking about putting Harrison Nunez on there. So I do think it is going to happen. And it's going to be like a historic event. It's going to be like the next biggest card since UFC 300. But if they have McGregor on that card, McGregor is always the main event. And is he going to main event over title fights? And if that's the case, I don't mind that. My one problem is why couldn't he headline over title fights like at UFC 300? They could have made McGregor Chandler headline 300. Pereira didn't have to headline UFC 300. But now all of a sudden it's okay. I find that kind of weird, but I do hope McGregor fights again, and I do hope he fights Michael Chandler because I want that fight to happen for Chandler's sake. Chandler deserves that fight. He's a legend. He's been a company man, even though he's been a loser in the promotion. He's done nothing but show up and entertain the fans. So and he's fought so many killers. Why not get a payday and get that red panty night against McGregor? McGregor kept him waiting, strung him along, left him at the altar. McGregor owes him. McGregor knows that he owes him. And I don't like when a fight that draws my interest gets canceled and never gets rescheduled. So I don't care what people say. McGregor Chandler must happen. And I think Michael is the perfect opponent for Conor to come back to because Michael Chandler is washed. Okay, spent so much time waiting for Conor just for it to not happen, which I think mentally and physically it took a toll on Chandler. He's looked washed in his last two fights against Bronx and the Baddie. He's been softened up, beaten up, lost twice since the Conor fight got canceled. Seeing Chandler look vulnerable has got to be a confidence boost for Conor, okay? Chandler's washed. He's gotten worse. If there is a time for Conor to fight Chandler, it's now. If there's an opponent for him to come back to, it's Michael Chandler. UFC doesn't usually do events on holidays. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Like that explains why UFC 207 was not on a Saturday because it would have fell on New Year's Eve, right? And if they did do it on New Year's Eve, they probably would have had to do that pay-per-view like way earlier in the day before the countdown starts. So I get why that one was on a Friday. They don't do UFC on Christmas. So, I guess that's fair. She won't come back. And she shouldn't come back. I agree. I mean, I don't know if I agree that she won't come back, but I do think she should not come back. Like, I like that she's training and she feels good, but she should just leave it at that, you know? Channel that feel good training back into fake fighting, back into the WWE. Trump and Dana is what has convinced I think it might actually happen. Yep, exactly. UFC 300 style card. Yeah, I imagine that card's going to be super, super stacked. And we haven't had a card super stacked in a long, long time. I mean, we've had some high quality cards. I think UFC 320 is pretty stacked. UFC 319 was stacked. 315 isn't really stacked. It could have, or not 315. Sorry, 322 could have been better. They didn't stack it hard enough. They don't put effort into MSG. We've had good cards in terms of the quality of the fights when they play out, but it's been a while since the UFC has actually put on a card where it's like, oh my gosh, one big fight after the other. Like, it's been so long since we've had 5 big fights in a row on the same card. It's usually just 2 big fights or 3 big fights. Like, International Fight Week was a good pay-per-view, but all we had were 2 title fights, okay? Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira, the co-main event, Pantoja versus Cara France. And then the feature fight, I think, was, Royval versus Van, which is a good fight, but they could have had another big fight. Then they had Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. Not that big of a matchup. Like, they really could have put more of an effort. And I don't know why they don't stack MSG cards anymore. Like, the last time they actually stacked Madison Square Garden was 2019, UFC 244. Because you remember that card? The main event was Masvidal versus Diaz. Co-main was Gaslam versus Till. Feature fight, I think, was Wonderboy versus Luque. And then you had Lewis versus Blagoy Ivanov. The main card opener, Kevin Lee versus Gregor Gillespie. And then the headliner, the prelims, Johnny Walker versus Corey Anderson. That card was beautiful. And it lived up to the hype. That's Chandler thought he could have been fighting instead of waiting for Conor. Yeah, I mean, I kind of don't blame Chandler for waiting. Like, I don't know. The Chandler situation is very complicated. It's easy for us to say he should have just fought, but when you have a fight that's that big, a fight with a guy like Conor McGregor, that's a huge paycheck. That's an important fight. And I think Chandler kind of viewed fighting Conor like it was fighting for the title. And that's why he didn't want to take another fight. Because it's like, if I take another fight, what if I lose and then I get my Conor fight stolen, you know? So I think he was just holding out, waiting as long as possible. And plus, Chandler's been through so many wars. So I do think the break might have been a little bit warranted. Let me take 2023 off. Let me rest my brain. Let me rest my body. And after this break, I get this reward at the end of the tunnel, which is Conor McGregor, a guy who hadn't fought in years, who broke his leg, and is the biggest superstar in the sport, which will get me a lot of money. And I think Chandler was hoping to maybe get a bag and then maybe retire. And then when that didn't happen, from there he just knew, okay, I have to fight. And he took the risk, lost twice, but now he's seeing, he probably could have fought and could have still had the Conor fight guaranteed because now Conor McGregor is still wanting that matchup. So it's a very complex situation. Chandler needs Conor because he can't realistically beat anyone else. Facts. At this point, yeah, I agree. Yeah, Yeah, Chandler can't, you know? A few years ago, Chandler could have been successful, against most guys on the roster, but after, like, taking all that time off and just declining physically and getting worse, it did decrease his odds against the rest of the roster. But you could say the same thing for Conor, because I don't see who else Conor beats in the lightweight division. Like, do you think Conor beats Patty? No. Do you think Conor beats Charles? No. Do you think he beats Ilya? No. Do you think he beats Gamrot? No. Do you think he beats Hooker? Maybe, but that's a big if. He doesn't beat Holloway now. Doesn't beat Justin Gaethje. Definitely doesn't beat Arman Sarukian. Could maybe chin Beneil, but Beneil could out grapple him. Maybe he could beat Moicano, but Moicano could just take him down and submit him. So yeah, it's tough to really see who Conor beats or how well he would even do against any of the current ranked lightweights, except for Chandler. So I think they're like the perfect matchup for each other, actually. Both washed, both diminished, and either man could win. Now, if they were to actually fight, who would I favor? Now, in 2024, I was going to pick Michael Chandler to beat Conor. And it's so sad because, like, right when around the time where the press conference got canceled, I was already planning on doing a breakdown and prediction video on that matchup. I was going to talk about it, like, I was going to talk about it actually, I think, well, not June 4th, because I went to Italy on the 4th of June. And the 3rd of June, that was the day the presser got canceled, and there was rumors the fight might be in jeopardy. So I was going to just talk about it when I got back from my trip from Italy. But during my Italy trip, they're already saying the fight might not happen. So I just kind of held off until, like, I knew for sure the fight was a done deal. And then it got canceled. I'm like, damn it. But I was likely going to lean the way of Chandler because I thought, oh, Chandler's still a beast. I thought Chandler was closer to his prime than Conor, but that theory got disproven. Now, I would probably go with Conor, honestly. Because even though Conor, by the time he fights again, it'll have been 5 years and he's going to be very washed. I don't know. I just feel like stylistically it kind of favors Conor. Conor always has done well against short, stumpy, orthodox wrestlers who are dependent on that right hand. You know, Chandler barely wrestles in his fights anyway, and even when he does, his wrestling isn't even that effective. Conor's takedown defense isn't that horrible. And I feel like with that time off and that preparation he's putting into this comeback, it's possible we could see Conor coming back looking super refreshed against the Chandler who's coming back, who's already had multiple fights since. And you could say the activity could be beneficial for him, but he's taken so much damage. Paddy Pimblett absolutely wrecked him. Like, I don't think Chandler's going to be the same after what Pimblett did to him. He might be even worse, which might make it perfect for Conor. So honestly, I might say Conor McGregor wins that fight in a vintage Conor McGregor type performance. Probably a first round TKO, honestly. And both guys are also fast starters too. And I imagine Michael Chandler, low IQ Chandler, would probably do something dumb and get himself caught. And then go on some like motivational speech afterwards. And then Conor McGregor, I think honestly, whoever wins that fight should go home. Loser goes home, winner goes home. Because I don't want to see a legend like Conor come back, stick around, just so he could end up losing more fights, to guys who are fresher in their prime. And same goes to Chandler. But then again, if Conor wins, you could maybe try to get him to fight Nate Diaz. You could do the Diaz trilogy. Masvidal has also talked about wanting to come back and fight. So you could also do Masvidal versus McGregor. He's got to fight Chandler and either retire or fight Jorge and Diaz. But honestly, I feel like if he ever fights either, it's probably going to take place in BKFC or boxing. And it sucks because Conor keeps saying the trilogy with Nate has to happen, and it's got to be, in MMA because they're 1-1 in MMA, and you can't leave it 1-1 in MMA. But realistically, that's gonna be a fight that happens in boxing because Nate Diaz, I don't know if he's actually gonna come back to MMA. He's teasing it, but will Dana let him? But it's crazy to me how they never fought a third time. That is a trilogy that should have happened a long time ago. And we'll see if it ever happens, whether it's an MMA or boxing. But I predict Conor, he's gonna complete his contract with the UFC, win against Chandler, and if there's nothing else for him, if there's no Jorge fight, no Nate fight, I think he will get out of his UFC contract because doesn't he have like one fight left on his contract? So I think from there he'll hang up the gloves, retire on a win, and then Conor McGregor will fight Mike Perry in bare knuckle FC, and then he'll also fight Jeremy Stevens. Or I don't know. He'll Perry beats him. That's kind of interesting, actually. Okay, what else? What else to talk about? All right, so uh this weekend, of course, we got Dominic Reyes and Carlos Ulberg fighting. I did my prediction video on that. We'll see. We'll see how Reyes does, man. Part of me wants Ulberg to win because I picked him, and just for my pride's sake, I want to be right. But my heart says Dominic Reyes. All the homies are rooting for Dominic Reyes because if he wins this, he could fight for the title. And imagine Reyes goes on like this Glover Teixeira, do Bronx kind of comeback run, and actually becomes the champion when like a year ago that would have seemed impossible. But I don't know, man. Ulberg is a tough matchup. And then whoever wins this fight is going to be kind of in an interesting position because you also got Yuri Prohaska and Khalil Roundtree fighting, and that could also decide the next title fight at light heavyweight. I feel like if Alex Pereira wins and Yuri Prohaska wins, the UFC might give the winner of Ulberg Reyes a title shot. But if Prohaska and Ankalaev win, then I think they're going to give Prohaska a title shot. And who knows? The winner of Reyes Ulberg could still wait out for the next shot and get it anyway. They just might have to do some waiting. But man, I cannot wait for UFC 320. That's a really good card. Alex Pereira, Magomed Ankalaev 2, Corey Sandhagen versus Merab Dvalishvili, and then the feature fight, Prohaska versus Roundtree. And then we have a couple other good fights on the main card as well, like Abbas Magomedov versus Joe Pyfer. Someone's probably getting knocked out in that fight. And then Yusuf Zalal versus Josh Emmett. That one, there's potential to either see a highlight reel KO from Emmett or a boring decision win from Yusuf Zalal. Like that fight honestly might stink up the card. But after that, we're just going to have straight bangers. But it's crazy how good we have it this fall. But I knew the MMA gods were gonna pull the plug somehow. Like the pay-per-views, thank God the MMA gods didn't touch UFC 320, 321, 322. But in October, they took two important main events from us. Oliveira versus Fiziev, and now UFC Rio's in a limbo. And then they also took they took Rainer D. Ritter versus Anthony Hernandez. And now we're left with Rainer D. Ritter versus Brendan Allen, which I'm not very interested in that matchup. And they were trying to get Costa to take the fight, but Costa had these dumb stipulations like, oh, it's got to be 3 rounds. Oh, it's got to be at a catch weight. Oh, we got to share a fighter hotel. Like, all three things were just a no-no for Rainer D. Ritter. Because one, he's not a homosexual, so he wouldn't share a hotel room with Paulo. Two, Rainer D. Ritter wants a 5-round main event. He's preparing for 5 rounds. He doesn't want a short 3-round, 50-minute fight. And he wants to fight at middleweight. It just makes sense. And I don't get why Paulo wouldn't take the fight. Because 4 or 5 weeks is enough time to cut weight. It's enough time to prepare your cardio, your body to go 5 rounds. And that would have been a better fight than what we're getting now. And this could have been a perfect opportunity for Paulo Costa because he could be in the top 5 and he could maybe fight. He could fast track to a title fight with the gourmet Chen Khamzat Chimaev. But I guess he doesn't care about fighting for the title. And now I think what's going to happen in the middleweight division is I think Anthony Hernandez, when he recovers, is going to fight Dricus du Plessis February of 2026, I predict. And I think Nasruddin Imavov's title shot is secured. Rainer D. Ritter, when he beats Brendan Allen, because Brendan Allen's not elite, Rainer D. Ritter will probably fight... who will he fight? He's not going to fight for the belt. I could see them actually rescheduling the Hernandez fight if Hernandez doesn't fight Dricus. But I think they're going to make Hernandez fight Dricus, meaning that I could see Rainer D. Ritter follow down the line anyway, because I don't think Paulo's going to fight again this year. Costa will wait. He never fights twice a year other than 2024. He was going to fight Shara Magomedov, but Shara is injured. I could see them giving him Israel Adesanya, but it's not going to happen. They're going to do Strickland Adesanya too. Paulo's not going to fight anybody. Or they might do Costa versus MVP or Cannonier potentially. But Rainer D. Ritter, honestly, I actually don't even know what's going to happen with RDR. Like, this fight with Brendan Allen does nothing for RDR. And I feel so bad for him. Another thing the UFC needs to start doing is putting in backup fighters just in case one pulls out. That way they don't have to go for scrambling for a replacement. I agree. I think you always should have to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And they need a backup. Well, UFC 320 doesn't need one because they already have Yuri and Khalil. So if anything happens to Ankalaev or Pereira, Yuri or Khalil can step in. UFC 321 doesn't really need a backup fighter because if anything happens to Gain or Tom, Almeida or Volkov could step in. But, well, actually, UFC 322, Leon's not stepping in if anything happens to Islam or Jack. It's going to be Carlos Prates who's going to get the call, even though he's ranked number 9. But I still agree with you, Toron. I still agree with you. Like they need to be prepared on all these cards, pay-per-views or fight nights. Also, did you hear that the headliner of the Apex on the 1st of November, it's such a stupid fight. It's that black guy, David Onama versus whatever bum he's fighting. Like, why would you make that the Apex main event? And Waldo Cortez Acosta's fighting on that card as well. forgot who he's fighting, but he could be the main event. But neither should be the main event. They should try to find an actual worthy main event for the Apex. Something that's actually exciting and worth tuning in for. Like, I guarantee you that Apex card November 1st is gonna have like a low viewer count. Like, no one's gonna like hardly anyone's gonna tune in to watch that. And then UFC 323, I wonder how that one's gonna turn out. I think that pay-per-view needs to have multiple featherweights on it, though, in case something happens to Volk or Lerone. Because I think we're going to get Volkanovski versus Murphy on that card. And since Diego's likely going to fight Oliveira, I guess they'll put him on that card. I was going to suggest putting him on that card against Yair Rodriguez, but who would Yair fight now? I guess do Yair Rodriguez versus Arnold Allen on that pay-per-view. And then Aljamain Sterling could also, you know what? Aljamain Sterling doesn't have to fight, but he could weigh in as a backup, prepare to be a backup, actually. Because there's this whole debate between Lerone and Aljo on who should get a title shot, and both guys are arguing on Twitter about it. I think it's clearly Lerone who should be next to get a title shot. I get why Aljo wants it, because, even though he's 1-1 in his last two fights, he's 2-1 at featherweight, I think. He had a close fight with Movsar Evloev. He fought one fight since Evloev. Evloev has not fought since that fight. He's been more active than Movsar, who's the number one guy. And he's a former champ, and he's kind of like, he's got a big name. So he does have a case, but you got to give it to Lerone. He's undefeated. He had a bigger, more impressive performance than Aljo. Aljo won a decision, which was an exciting fight against Brian Ortega. But Lerone got a knockout win. Like, that's how you make a statement. He fought a guy coming from Bellator and then the PFL, a guy who had so much hype behind him, and he shut that shit down. Like, goddamn, Diego Lopez said he's willing to step up. Haven't heard anything from Oliveira or the UFC. That's a big fight, better than Oliveira's original opponent, Fiziev. Yeah, I don't know what Oliveira is doing, because Oliveira is complaining about people, like, not wanting to step up and fight him, or people not actually being about it. And it's just kind of like, it's like, what are you complaining about? Yet you literally turned down Mateos Gamrot. You literally said no to fighting Gamrot. So you have no room to complain about these guys saying they're willing to step up, but they're not about it. Because this is coming from the same guy in the same breath who's complaining about no one being about it, and then yet he turns down a replacement. A guy who could have been an open lane to headlining UFC Rio. But someone who probably should step in, but I don't think it's going to happen. But it wouldn't be unrealistic. Patricio Pitbull could fight Charles Oliveira. He's talked about wanting to fight in Rio. No one's wanted to step up and fight him. Patricio Pitbull, even though he's a featherweight, Pitbull has literally fought. Pitbull fought at lightweight before. He was the Bellator lightweight champion. He was a double champ in Bellator featherweight, lightweight. So he could potentially take the fight, shake things up. But he won't do it. Nah, but that's such a dumb fight, though. Like, if Moicano would have beat Beneil Dariush, then I could get it. But he literally lost. He got beaten by... He's got a 2-fight losing streak. Not a 1-fight losing streak. 2-fight losing streak. Does this brother want to lose a 3rd fight in a row to another top guy? Like, he needs to sit down. He's not getting that fight. And if he does, I mean, Oliveira will win, and I'm glad, but I could care less about that fight. But my prediction for UFC 323, I predict the main event's going to be Volkanovski versus Murphy. Co-main's going to be Pantoja versus Van. Feature fight is going to be Sean Strickland versus Israel Adesanya 2. And then they're going to, somewhere on the pay-per-view, they're going to have one featherweight fight and one flyweight fight. And there's going to be a backup fighter for the main event. So Aljamain's probably going to be the backup. But will he fight on the card? No. I think Yair and Allen will fight. Um, Either it'll be the second fight of the main card or the first fight to open up the card. Then I think the main card opener, or it could end up on the prelims, it will be Brandon Moreno versus who would Brandon Moreno fight? Who would Moreno fight? You know what? I just want to check out the rankings. But Brandon Moreno's been talking about wanting to fight in December. So I could see them like doing a December. Hold on. Hold the flip on. Go UFC rankings. Okay. You know what? I think they would do Brandon Moreno versus Manal Kopp. You know what? That might be exactly what they do. Or Brandon Moreno versus Tatsura Taira. You know what? Brandon Moreno versus Tatsura Taira will kick off the main card. And following that will be Yair Rodriguez versus Brandon Allen. Or no, not Brandon Allen. Sorry, Arnold Allen. Arnold Allen. Did I say Brendan this whole time? If I did, my bad. But Arnold Allen versus Yair Rodriguez. And like I said, feature fight, Strickland Adesanya, co-main, Pantoja Van, main, Volk, Murphy, you're welcome. That way, if anything happens to the co-main, Moreno or Tyra could step in. If anything happens to the main, if Aljo's not the backup, Yair or Allen could step in. But, I could also be completely wrong. Wait a minute. Actually, no, I'm wrong. I am wrong. But I do think that 323 is going to be stacked. I just don't know if Moreno will be on the main card. I feel like one of these fights I mentioned might actually be on the prelims because Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong is actually rumored or in the works for 323. So let me try again. I'm going to say the main card opener will be it will be a featherweight contender fight. It could be Aljo versus somebody, Yair versus somebody. I don't know who's gonna fight who. I don't want to sound too bold. Then following that will be O'Malley versus Yadong. Feature fight, Adesanya Strickland, co-main, Pantoja, Van, and the main, Volkanovski versus Murphy. And I think it's going to be one of the most stacked cards to close out the year. And it's going to be in Las Vegas too. And usually December does have some pretty big pre-Christmas cards. There's always some good bangers going on in December. But you know what? Moreno and whoever, Tyra or whatever contender he fights might still take place on the pay-per-view. It would just be on the prelims. Because main cards on pay-per-views rarely do 6 fights. Bronx should accept the Lopez fight in the UFC and get on board with it. Yeah, I agree. Come on, Bronx. Don't be a coward. You literally said everyone's saying they want to step up, but no one actually wants to. Well, someone's saying they want to step up, and they actually do want to step up. So now you got to step up, bro. Now it's your turn. Because I believe Lopez walks at like 175 pounds. That's what most lightweight fighters walk around. Yeah, Lopez is a pretty big featherweight, so Lopez at lightweight wouldn't be too crazy. Like he definitely would not be undersized. He'd be huge up a weight class. And plus, it's bigger fights at lightweight for Lopez. That's true. And I mean, he could get a featherweight title shot, but I kind of don't want to see it as long as Volkanovski's champ. Because I mean, he could win a rematch with Volk. Volk's getting older. He's very chinny, prone to damage. Diego dropped him, but Volk won that fight so handily. I feel like going up to lightweight while Volk is champ is like a fresh start. What's up? No filter MMA. How's it going? All right. How many weeks till Whaley versus Valentina? We have this weekend, the 27th, and then 4 weeks in October. So that's 5 weeks. And then, okay, so it's about 7 weeks down until Shevchenko Whaley and Islam JDM. That's going to be such a huge historic event, especially if Makhachev and Makhachev and Whaley get it done, because we've never seen two fighters in one night become double champion. And I'm starting to lean towards Islam winning that fight against Jack. And then I've always been saying that Valentina wins, but I am 100% rooting for her downfall. It's going down. Whaley better bring it. Yeah, damn right, she better. Didn't they announce Ruffy for Charles? I don't think so. I don't know why they wouldn't announce that fight, because Mauricio Ruffy just got choked out by Benoit Saint Denis. If anyone should be taking the Charles fight, it should be Benoit Saint Denis. Do you think Whaley gets it done? No filter. Big nope. Yeah, sadly, I agree. Did we forget how Val mopped up Manon? I mean, she didn't mop her up, but yeah, I remember she won that fight by a hair. Manon was the big threat. I mean, she kind of proved to be one, just saying. But I think Natalia Silva's the bigger threat to Valentina Shevchenko, because she's younger, faster, someone that can actually go up against the striking of Val, has the footwork, better lateral movement, good takedown defense. And if it just stays standing, it's gonna be tricky for Val, because she's fighting someone who's not just gonna stand in front of her and isn't really gonna give her anything to counter. And I think we're gonna see that fight probably on like May of next year. I think Natalia is just gonna wait a full year until she fights again. I feel like she's going to be one of those fighters who just kind of waits around for her title shot. Although she could take another fight, eh, I don't see why she would. Like, who would she fight? She could fight Rose, but Rose doesn't want it. Already beat Grasso. Barbara has a fight. Aaron has a fight against Cortez, so. A hair? Man, it looked like she had been 3 rounds after one. Valentina beat her ass badly in round one. Yeah, that was the only round where Manning got her ass beat, and then Manning Furo adjusted with her pressure and started getting takedowns, took her down, controlled her in round two. Round three, controlled her against the cage, control time, strikes against the cage in the clinch, landed elbows off the break, knees to the body, and it was working Valentina in the fourth until Val stole the round with the knockdown. Then round five, Val just like barely won it. But that's not a fight that like Valentina dominated. She dominated Alexa Grasso. That was someone she mopped the floor with, unfortunately. What she did to Lauren Murphy, that's mopping the floor with someone. What she did to Jessica Andrade, just mopping the floor with someone. But she hasn't mopped the floor with someone that consistently in a while. Yeah, but in between that knockdown, it was still a very close fight. I mean, she did more damage, but I don't think she beat her worse. Because the difference between Alexa, her performance, and Mannon's performance, Mannon at least won 2 rounds of that fight. Officially on 2 cards. I think maybe one judge gave Val 4-1, which is dumb. Uh Grasso didn't win a single round, didn't get a single moment, got her striking shut down, and couldn't stop the takedowns, couldn't escape from the ground. Like that was a nightmare for Grasso to deal with in that fight. Just not being able to get any aspect of her game going. She had like no hope. Nothing to fall back on. Whereas Manning, she got a broken nose, but she landed good shots on the feet. She had Val running, resetting, landed shots in the clinch, got a takedown, had a big second round, had a competitive third round, winning round four until the knockdown, a competitive fifth round. Like she was in there with the champion, but just, I guess, didn't do enough. Although I thought she could have. I guess she didn't, but she came way closer than Alexa Grasso in the third fight. Now, Grasso in fight two did better than Manning. Grasso in the first fight, where she won, did better than Manning. But we'll see how competitive Whaley Valentina is. Because, I mean, that fight, it has potential to be a competitive fight. It has potential to be a war. But it could also be one of those fights where it's like someone is bound to dominate, whether it's Zhang Weili or whether it's Valentina Shevchenko. But I feel like Val is more likely to dominate because she's technically better, because she's better on the feet, because physically she might have the edge. And she's better at her defense, good with her counter striking, and Weili is very open. And I feel like Whaley's only path to victory is her wrestling. But her wrestling, it's gotta work if she's gonna win this. But I will say it's been impressive how long Val has managed to reign. And Whaley too, because Whaley has been champ for like 6 years on and off. I mean, she's champ at strawweight still, technically, until I think the 21st. I think they'll strip her like once the first punch is thrown between Verna and Dern. But she's been champ for so long. Val's been champ for so long. 5 years the first time, and then another 2 years the second time, which makes that 7 years. She's been at it for a while, and I mean, if she can go into next year as champ, that's like 8 years. And she's managing to stay on top, stay sharp. But I do think it's going to end again at some point, though. I predict she's going to lose again. It could be this year against Wei Li, or it's going to be to Natalia Silva. And I mean, she could get through both, but I do feel like one or the other is going to beat her. It's bound to happen because she's getting up there in age. Her fights are getting more competitive, and girls are getting more confident against her. They're seeing her fights. They're seeing her not look as dominant. They're like, you know what? I actually may have a chance. Whereas before Grosso beat her, do you remember that time where literally no one wanted to call out Valentina? Like Val was frustrated because she couldn't find an opponent. She didn't fight twice in 2022 because she didn't have an opponent for the end of the year. Like everyone was afraid of her. Manon is like, oh, I might not be ready. I might need more time. And then Grasso took the fight, but even Grasso wasn't that fired up to take the fight. She's like, oh, I might need more 5 round experience. But now you see a shift. You see a huge, huge shift. Grasso broke that spell. And yes, she ended up giving the belt back to Val later. But now other girls are more eager to fight Val. That's because they believe in themselves. And self belief, confidence is a powerful thing because this sport, it's just as psychological as it is physical. And confidence, it will take you very far. And I know Wei Li's going to be very confident going into this fight. She's already seen holes in Val's game get exposed by Santos, get exposed by Grasso, Manon, and I think she sees where she could capitalize. And even if she doesn't get it done, you got Natalia Silva, who might have the makings of being Valentina Shevchenko's kryptonite. But you know what sucks? Dakota Ditcheva is not going to be in the UFC until 2027. She could have been here sooner, and we could have been seeing a huge fight between Dakota and Shevchenko. But now there's a risk of by the time Dakota comes to the UFC, I don't think Shevchenko will be champion anymore, whether she loses or retires on top. Like I think Valentina is going to fight for probably like one more year and then retire. All right. Well, it's been fun talking to y'all, but I'm going to end this live now. But thank y'all for tuning in. I'll try to go live again soon, but yeah, peace out.